Dark confidence, the Machiavellian skill that makes you untouchable. Most people think confidence is about walking into a room with your head high, your voice loud, and your smile ready. But that's not confidence. That's performance. It's a masked one that can crack the moment pressure hits. Real confidence, dark confidence, is something else entirely. It's not loud, it's not showy, and it doesn't need anyone's permission. It is rooted in something deeper, colder, and paradoxically more human. It is the unshakable clarity that comes from knowing who you are, what you're capable of, and exactly how far you're willing to go. Not in the light, but in the shadows. Dark confidence isn't taught in schools. It's not the kind of self-help advice you'll find in a feel-good morning podcast, because it doesn't care about being liked. It doesn't care about being polite. It's the confidence of someone who has looked into their own darkness and didn't flinch. It's the confidence of someone who knows the world isn't fair and has stopped expecting it to be. It's Machiavellian. That doesn't mean evil. It means strategic. It means grounded in reality. It means being 2 moves ahead while everyone else is still waiting for permission to act. But let's slow down. Why does this matter? Why should you care about dark confidence? Because the world does not reward the most talented. It rewards the most resilient. It rewards the most adaptable. It rewards those who can stay calm while others panic, those who can act under pressure, those who can smile in the face of rejection, those who don't collapse when they are criticized, ghosted, betrayed, or underestimated. And that kind of strength doesn't come from positivity. It comes from philosophy, from deep, internal clarity, from knowing the nature of the game you're in and refusing to play it like a victim. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote not for the innocent, but for the aware. For those who understood that power doesn't come from wishing the world were different, it comes from mastering it as it is. He knew that success required more than good intentions. It required vision, discipline, detachment, and most of all, self-knowledge. Dark confidence begins there. It begins when you stop outsourcing your worth to other people's opinions, when you stop needing constant validation to feel real, when you stop fearing rejection because you already accept yourself more than anyone else possibly could. But how do you get there? How do you build this kind of internal power?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
You begin by destroying the illusion that the world owes you anything, that people will be fair, that if you just do everything right, things will work out. That's a child's dream. The adult world is a place of competing agendas, of hidden motives, of shifting alliances. That's not cynical, it's just true. And the moment you accept that, a strange peace enters your life. Because now you're not surprised when people lie. You're not broken when things fall apart. You're not devastated when someone doesn't like you. You're prepared. You've already done the inner work. You've fortified your identity from the inside out. This is what I mean when I say dark confidence is untouchable. It's not that you don't feel pain. It's that pain no longer dictates your direction. It's not that people can't hurt you. It's that their approval no longer defines you. You become sovereign, independent, grounded. And that kind of presence is rare, so rare that when people feel it, they either want to follow you or destroy you. Because it reminds them of what they haven't yet become. And here's where the philosophy gets real. Ask yourself this: What if the reason you don't feel confident isn't because you lack value, but because you've built your identity on fragile foundations, on being liked, on being seen, on being approved? What happens to that foundation when someone criticizes you? When you fail publicly? When you're ghosted, ignored, or abandoned? And the whole structure collapses, and you're left scrambling, wondering who you are without their gaze. Dark confidence solves this by removing the need for the gaze entirely. It turns your focus inward. It builds your identity not on image, but on reality. What you've survived, what you've built, what you've overcome, what you know to be true about yourself, even if no one else ever sees it. That's where the confidence comes from. Not from hype, but from history, from earned scars, from the quiet, private victories that no one applauds but you remember with absolute clarity. And the best part, once you've built this internal foundation, the external world becomes a game. You play it, but you're not in it. You learn how to speak to people's desires without being owned by them. You learn how to read the room, influence outcomes, and move powerfully not because you need to dominate, but because you've stopped being afraid. And when fear leaves the system, clarity replaces it. That's when you become dangerous, not in a violent way, but in a focused way, in a strategic way, in a Machiavellian way. So let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to be good and started trying to be real? What would happen if you stopped apologizing for your ambition, your vision, your intensity? What would change if you stopped waiting for the world to hand you power and started creating it from within? That's the beginning of dark confidence. It's not about being fearless, it's about being unshaken. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you have the tools to respond, adapt, and rise. Because you've already faced yourself. And once you've conquered your internal chaos, the external world loses its grip on you. The cold edge of clarity, how ruthless self-honesty creates unbreakable power. There's a moment in every person's life when they face a mirror that doesn't flatter. It doesn't lie. It doesn't soften the edges. This mirror is made of cold clarity, and it doesn't just show your reflection, it shows your excuses. It shows every time you hesitated when you should have acted, every time you blamed circumstances instead of taking ownership, every moment you betrayed your potential for comfort. And if you can stand to look into that mirror without turning away, you've just unlocked the next level of dark confidence. Because unshakable power begins with ruthless self-honesty. Most people lie to themselves constantly. Not because they're bad, but because they've been trained to. Society rewards self-deception. It teaches us to curate our image, to justify our failures, to hide from our flaws behind layers of narrative. But every lie you tell yourself becomes a crack in your foundation. You might not see it at first, but it weakens you. It makes you fragile. Because when you build your identity on distortion, reality becomes your enemy, and eventually, reality always wins. Machiavelli never said to be cruel for the sake of it. He said to be clear, to see the world not as we wish it were, but as it is. And that begins with seeing ourselves as we are, not as victims, not as heroes, but as flawed, capable, complex beings who are both the source of our suffering and the architects of our salvation. That's the cold edge of clarity. It doesn't ask for guilt. It asks for accountability. But let me ask you something difficult. What lies are you still telling yourself? That you're not ready? That it's someone else's fault? that success is for other people, that your time will come if you just stay patient. These are not thoughts, they're traps, and the longer you believe them, the more you delay your evolution. People talk about mindset like it's about affirmation and positivity, but real mindset work is brutal. It's the process of dismantling every comforting illusion you've built to protect your ego. It's the mental equivalent of burning your house down just to rebuild it with steel. This is where the power begins to crystallize. Because once you stop lying to yourself, you stop needing lies from others. You stop being seduced by flattery. You stop being manipulated by guilt. You stop being paralyzed by failure. Why? Because you've already faced the truth. You've already seen what's broken. And now you're building from what's real. That's when you become untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're rooted, grounded in something deeper than performance, grounded in clarity. And here's the paradox. Clarity makes you colder, but also more compassionate. When you see your own darkness, you stop judging others for theirs. You recognize the same avoidance, the same fear, the same projections in other people. And that gives you an advantage not to exploit, but to understand. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. That's Machiavellian intelligence. It's not about manipulation, it's about mastery. The mastery of self, of emotion, of perception. This is what separates surface-level confidence from dark confidence. The surface confidence needs everything to go right. It needs applause. It needs outcomes. But dark confidence thrives even when everything goes wrong. Because it's not built on circumstances, it's built on clarity. You can lose the deal, lose the job, lose the person, and still walk forward with power. Because you know who you are. You've faced the mirror. You've embraced your inner contradictions. And now, your strength is not conditional, it's earned. People often ask, how do I become more confident? The answer is simple but not easy. Stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending you don't know what needs to be done. Stop acting like you're helpless. Stop waiting for a sign. Be your own sign. That's what dark confidence teaches you. To become your own source of truth. You need to stop outsourcing your clarity to Instagram quotes and start generating it from within. Because at the end of the day, the person who is most honest with themselves is the person who cannot be controlled. They can't be blackmailed with shame. They can't be manipulated with praise. They can't be broken by loss, because they've already faced the worst and they owned it. That's real power. And once you build your identity on that kind of clarity, you're not just confident, you're unshakable. The predator mindset, why strategic detachment sets you free. There's a reason lions don't flinch when the jungle gets loud. They don't need to prove anything. They don't chase every noise. They move with precision, not panic. That's the essence of the predator mindset. And contrary to popular belief, it's not about aggression. It's not about domination, it's about detachment. Strategic detachment. The ability to observe without reacting, to wait without growing desperate, to walk away without losing yourself. It's the mindset of someone who doesn't need to force outcomes because they've mastered the art of influence through presence, patience, and power. Detachment isn't passive. It's not apathy. It's not emotional numbness. It's the conscious rejection of neediness. But it's the refusal to base your worth on what you can't control. Most people live in a constant state of psychological entanglement. They get triggered by every word. They obsess over what others think. They tie their identity to relationships, jobs, likes, outcomes. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, reactive, powerless. The truth is, they've placed the steering wheel of their life in someone else's hands. And until they reclaim it, they're slaves to everything outside themselves. The predator mindset breaks that cycle. It begins when you stop being addicted to outcomes and start focusing on execution. It's not about winning every time. It's about playing the game with such clarity and discipline that even when you lose, you're still in control. You're still you. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't explain yourself to people who've already decided not to understand you. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. You know your value. You know your direction. And you know that anyone who threatens your peace is not an asset, they're a liability. And here's where the detachment gets powerful. When you stop needing people, they start needing you. Because your presence is no longer desperate. It's magnetic. You're not trying to impress, you're just being. You're not afraid to walk away, which means people feel the weight of your absence before they even lose you. That's the paradox. The less you need others to choose you, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because now, you're not a beggar at the table of validation, but you are the table. Ask yourself, how many decisions have you made from fear of loss? How many times have you stayed in places, jobs, or relationships not because they were right, but because you were afraid to leave? That's not strategy. That's survival, and survival is not the same as living. The predator mindset doesn't fear loss because it's already accepted it as part of the game. It knows that detachment isn't about not caring, it's about caring intelligently, caring without collapsing, committing without clinging, showing up fully, but knowing when to walk away. This kind of mental discipline is rare. It takes practice. It takes patience. It takes pain. You have to train yourself to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, to observe your emotions without becoming them. You need to delay gratification in a world that worships instant validation. But once you do, you enter a new realm of power. You become unpredictable. You become calm in chaos. You become a force that doesn't just react to the world, but shapes it. And the beauty of strategic detachment is that it doesn't numb you, it frees you. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can pursue goals ferociously without being destroyed by setbacks. You can connect with others authentically without being owned by their opinions. Because your foundation is internal. It's not built on applause or approval. It's built on self-alignment, and that's what makes you untouchable. People often confuse strength with control. But real strength isn't about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself, your impulses, your reactions, your desires. That's what the predator mindset gives you. The ability to move through life with the calm awareness of someone who knows who they are, knows what they want, and knows they'll be fine with or without it. That's not indifference. That's sovereignty. So here's a question to sit with. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing and started choosing? If you stopped trying to force the world to love you and started loving yourself so completely that the world had no choice but to respect you or get out of your way? This is the razor's edge of dark confidence, strategic detachment. Fierce, calm, aware. You're no longer playing for approval. You're playing for power, not over others, but over yourself. The final boss is you. Why mastering the inner war is the key to everything in every great story. There's a final boss, the last enemy, the one that stands between the hero and everything they've been chasing. But what no one tells you is that in real life, the final boss is you, not the economy, not your enemies, not your parents, your past, or your partner. The true battle is always internal. And until you win that war, until you master your own mind, your own story, your own shadows, you will keep sabotaging every victory you achieve. You will keep handing away your power, not because someone takes it, but because you never believed you deserved to hold it. This is the last and hardest truth of dark confidence, that the real enemy is not out there, it's within. And that means the battlefield is not somewhere you escape to. It's where you live. Every day, every moment, you are either feeding your strength or feeding your fear. You are either evolving or repeating. And the terrifying part is, we often think we're growing when we're really just rearranging the same patterns with different names. We change jobs, partners, cities, but we carry the same insecurities, the same self-doubt, the same unconscious sabotage wherever we go. So what does it mean to fight the final boss? It means facing the part of you that resists growth, the part that wants comfort more than freedom, and the part that clings to victimhood because it's familiar. We all have it. That voice that whispers, maybe you're not enough. Maybe you'll fail. Maybe they'll laugh at you. And for most people, that voice wins. Not because it's stronger, but because it's sneakier. It doesn't attack head-on. It seduces, it rationalizes, it wears the mask of logic. It tells you to wait, to be careful, to play small just a little longer. But here's the hard truth, there is no later. There's only the version of you that either rises now or regrets forever. And that's not meant to scare you, it's meant to liberate you. Because once you realize the enemy is internal, you reclaim control. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop negotiating with your potential. You go inward. You face the chaos. And you take full, brutal, radical responsibility for your life. This is where dark confidence becomes unbreakable. Because now, you're not just playing the game better, you're playing a different game entirely. A game where your emotions don't own you, your history doesn't define you, and your fear doesn't decide your future. You move with clarity. You speak with precision. You act with power. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because you've earned it. You've gone to war with your own mind and emerged with something no one can take from you, self-command. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be more loyal to your future than your fear. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop letting imperfection be your excuse. You don't need to control everything, you just need to control you. That's the final level. That's the real prize, not applause, not wealth, not status, but sovereignty. The ability to choose your thoughts, your focus, your response, no matter what the world throws at you. Ask yourself, what if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the version of you that refuses to let go of the past? What if the door has been open all along, but you've been too busy arguing for your limitations to see it? The final boss isn't there to destroy you. It's there to reveal you, to test your readiness, and to see if you'll shrink or rise. And once you defeat that inner enemy, once you stop running, stop hiding, stop outing, you become something rare. Someone who doesn't just survive life, someone who commands it. That's dark confidence. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of power. Not the need to be seen, but the clarity to see yourself. Not the hunger to be chosen, but the discipline to choose yourself every single day. In silence, in shadows, in strength. And once you've done that, once you've faced the final boss and walked away with your soul intact, you are untouchable.